All right, so here's part 2. Hopefully this will be short since the last one was like 13 and a half minutes long, sorry. Okay, so I want to talk about dihybrid crosses really quickly. So let's say we're looking at two different traits or two different genes. In this case, we're looking at not only like the pea pod color I've got over here, but we're also looking at the pea pod shape. So my parent generation, the very top row, so of course looking at this picture at the right, the parent generation, one parent is homozygous dominant for both traits, big R, big R, big Y, big Y. This is a round seed that is yellow. Okay, so this is your little pea pod, or well, the pea inside the pod. And then the other parent is going to be homozygous recessive for both traits, little r, little y, little y. This obviously is not round, it is a wrinkled seed, and it's not yellow, it's green. So our two recessive traits are wrinkled and green. And so the gametes that each one of these produce are shown below. You know, this homozygous dominant parent can only produce offspring that carry the homozygous dominant traits. So in one gamete, it could pass on a big R and a big Y. The other parent can only pass on the heterozygous traits. So the other one's passing, or sorry, the heterozygous, it can only pass on the homozygous recessive traits. So a little R and a little Y. That's all it's got. So when they make this first set of offspring, all of the babies are going to be exactly the same. They're going to be big R, big Y, little y. If you want to run that Punnett square, you can, but they're all going to look that way, I promise. And so we're keeping these two things together for dihybrid crosses, even though we're looking at two different traits. We can produce our gametes, and we'll talk about how we make those gametes again in a second. So this is our F1 generation, is what it's called. Remember parents and then F1. Well, sometimes we want to know what would happen next, and so this is what Gregor Mendel did. He said, let me take this F1 generation, this first round of babies, and let them self-pollinate. So there was no cross-pollination happening. They self-pollinated. So essentially it's a form of asexual reproduction that plants can do. And so when these self-pollinated, that means that they were both the mom and the dad, and it's not creepy because they're plants. But there are eggs found in plants, and there is sperm pollen, okay, found in plants. And so the gametes that are produced, you have one that has the big R, big Y. 1/4 of the sperm would have a little r and a big Y. One has a big R and a little y, and then the last one has little r and little y. And the same is true for all of the eggs that the plant would produce. And then we can actually see in this visual, it actually shows you the breakdown of how all of those traits kind of appear. So how would we find out how these gametes work? Let's take a peek. The easiest way is called the FOIL method. And I know this like reminds you of math because it works the same way that foiling works in math. So first, you are literally doing the first. So you take the first of the first trait and the first letter of the second trait. That's your first gamete. Okay, so we want to know how many gametes we can get in, oh, we'll do that one in a second. I don't know why I left that one up. Sorry, I'll come back to that one. So we have this big D and little d, little a, little a. So we do first, what can we make first? And then when we're looking at the second ones, we go to outer. So F-O, outer, so the first letter and then the outer letter. So the two outer letters. And that gives us another big D, little a. Then we look at our inner letters, little d and little a. So that's our third gamete that we produce. And what do you think the L stands for in FOIL? If you picked last, you're right on. So with this last, we have a little d and a little a, because those are the last ones of the different letters. And so we made two different gametes here. We made a big D and a little a, big D and little a, those two are the same. And we made a little d and a little a, little d and little a, also the same. So this one has two different kinds of gametes here. Now, if we were doing the same thing for little d, big A, they would only have one different kind of gamete. The only thing they could pass on for the D allele is the little d. The only thing they can pass on for the A allele is the little a. So they're going to pass on little d, big A. Did I say little a? I'm sorry, it's big A. Little d, big A is the only thing they can pass on to their offspring. Now for this last example, how many types of gametes for big D, big A, little a? See if you can figure that one out on your own. It's extra fun. Okay, so we're going to look at an example thinking about our sweet guinea pigs from the last video because they're so cute. So in guinea pigs, short hair, big H, is dominant to long hair, little h. Additionally, black eyes, big B, are dominant to pink eyes, little b. Pink eye, I mean, you know, pink eye. But no, really it's pink eyes because they're like little albino eyes. Like in bunny rabbits too. So anyway, we're going to cross a guinea pig that is heterozygous for short hair and black eyes. Okay, so it's heterozygous for short hair, heterozygous for black eyes, with a guinea pig that has long hair and it's heterozygous for black eyes. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have to come up with some gametes here. Let's take a look. So we're going to do the foiling method where we go first. And so our first is a big H with a big B. And then we're going to do outsides where you take a big H and then we go with a little b. So that gives us this one. Then we're going to do insides, which is the little h and the big B right here. And then last, we do the little h and the little b. So we've got our 4 different gametes that the big H, big B, little b guinea pig can produce. So this guinea pig, remember, was heterozygous for both traits. So what kinds of gametes do you think the little h, big B, little h is going to make? I know you can't really answer me right now, but just think about it. Okay, so for the H trait, all it can pass on are the little h's. But it could pass on that little h with a big B, or it could pass on its little h with a little b. So this one's going to produce 2 different gametes here. So let's go ahead and set up our table. I would like for you to pause me once I give you the directions, I guess. But I want you to try and fill this out. So write this practice problem down somewhere in your notes and work it out. I've set up the table for you. You just have to kind of fill in the blanks and then make some determinations about the phenotypes and the genotypes. And so really you're just counting over here. That's all I'm looking for is, are you counting how many of, and there are again 8 possible boxes here. How many of 8 are big H, big B, big B? How many out of 8 are little h, little b, little b? Okay, so you're going to go ahead and write those down and come up with those genotypes. And then based on the genotypes, you're going to come up with the phenotype percentages. So pause here if you haven't done so already. Pause, because I'm getting ready to show you the answers. Don't be a cheater. Cheaters, no cheaters. Here we go. So if we take a look here, you will see big H, big B, big B. We have 1 out of 8, and that's this one right here. We end up having 1/4 or 2/8 of the offspring end up having the big H, big B, little b, and little h, big B, little b. So that's kind of cool that we end up having multiple traits that have that 1/4 genotype. But then when you take a look at your phenotypes, we actually have a lot of different information. Okay, so now our numbers get a lot bigger because both big H, big B, and big H, big B, little b, all of those are going to actually have short hair and black eyes. So remember, this is like 2/8 plus 1/8. That gives us our 3/8 that we're looking at here. If you've got questions about this, please let me know. Otherwise, I think that is the end. That's all, folks. Again, we do have a quick homework quiz on Monday, and if you've got any questions, let me know. Thank you.